Alrighty, everybody, welcome in. Thank you guys all for being here. We're about to get started, so please let's get as many people here. Share out the live, and we'll get started in just a few minutes. Please, I need everybody's help in just protecting the live today. Because I just got it back, so would appreciate everybody to share if you're able to help with the goal, anything you can do to help protect the live, inshallah, and we'll go from there. So everybody, welcome in. We are about to get started with our event today. We have Rachel Corrie's parents. They will be with us, so please make sure you guys share out the live, and we'll build the room here, and then we'll get started. Salam, everyone. Salam, salam. Make sure you hit that orange heart. Join the team. Whatever you guys can do. I don't know what's going on with TikTok tomorrow, but here we go. We are going to end with a good live, inshallah, educational, and a very impactful live, inshallah. So please, please share out the live if you are able to, and we can get as many people in. I am maybe shadow banned, not really sure because I just got my life back. So, and then I will share it to our guests, and then when they're here, we will get started. It's W, Linda. What are the apps that you're going to be using? Salam, Linda. I know, welcome back, and then goodbye. It's I feel like that's how it is. I just got it back, and then I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know if we're all going to not have TikTok or what the plan is, but we will see. Just sharing it out to everybody that I feel like would want to be in and that registered as well. Yes, I will try the VPN. I know a lot of people say that you can use the VPN, but you just can't update the app after that because it's not in the App Store. Yes, CI Trader, make sure you share out the live. We're just waiting for our guests to be here, and we'll get started. Welcome, welcome in, everybody. Let me make sure. Let me bring up one of my mods if they can just help out here. Get the live started, and then once our guests are here, we'll join in.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
I'm super excited. This is going to be a great live. Guys, if you're just joining, let's get the likes up. Let's get them up to at least 10K for now. Let's share it out to about 1,000. If you haven't joined the team, please hit the orange heart at the top. Give team bracelets to boost the live. We need positive comments in the chat throughout the live to protect it. Thank you. We appreciate everybody being here.
Thank you, Linda. Guys, I'll bring everybody up in just a minute. I'm just gonna let me reformat this. And then I'm just waiting for our guests to join, and then we'll bring them up, inshallah. Let me see here. I'll bring you guys up, and then, but I'll probably have to drop everybody. And then if you are interested in having any questions, I'll bring you guys all back up, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
I thought you were about to say wa alaikum. I was gonna.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody.
Wa alaikum assalam. Comments are a little hard to see. I don't know if
Yeah, well, Yeah, when the guests will be here, when they'll be on the big screen. So
Gotcha. Makes sense.
yes. So thank you guys all for being here. I'm really excited. We have Rachel Corrie's parents that are just about to join us. So please make sure you guys like and share the live. Salam D, Ronnie, DJK, A Money, welcome in. And then once they join, I'm gonna drop everybody. And if you guys have any questions that you do want to ask, I will bring you guys up, inshallah. Just let me know.
Guys, can we please double tap the screen? Everyone join the team. You get a heart meets. Send your heart meets. Join a team. You get 40 bracelets. Meet the live goal. 200 donuts. Guys, try to meet the live goal. Everyone send subscription. Protect the live. Let's keep the live going and up and running. Guys, we had 70 people in my room. We're closed so we can get 70 people. I didn't see all 70 came here. So share the live to all the people that were on that live that hasn't come. We're calling people out by names today. So all the people that were on my live that didn't come, y'all better come here. All right. So double tap the screen, like the live. Let's get the room up. Let's get the room moving. We got the heart me's. We got the team bracelets. We keep the live protected. We keep it going. TikTok friendly language. Guys, in the comments, I know y'all are going to be having your farewells today. It's your last day, Americans, and I'm sorry for your loss. But like, let's have one run.
For your loss is crazy,
PD
actually.
and I are in Canada, so we're not
And
moving.
I'm a
Bro, I
Scandinavian.
don't care. I don't
I'm a
care. You guys,
Scandinavia, so
right now you're refugees, bro.
Let
Scandinavia.
me let
Right
me
now you're
start some
refugees,
drama with
bro.
Elmo. Maybe we can get more people
Elmo,
in here.
Right now.
Elmo refused to mod me on my main, and he wouldn't he was just ignoring me for 2 days in a row.
Bro, I keep modding you and I'm modding you. I'm modding
Yeah,
you.
my
I'm modding you.
backup. I
Yeah,
told you to switch it.
because every time you keep
yeah.
getting this different account, bro.
Yeah, it's
Him
not
and
my fault that I keep on
Elmo,
getting banned.
him and Didi are the two people that come to my life. Like, can you unmod me? Unmod this one. Unmod me. Unmod this one. I'm like, and
Wait,
then they come. Hold on, and then they come press me
And
like,
Manny, you
yo,
don't
I'm
have
not
me
modding you.
added on your account. Don't even, bro.
Elmo, you
Don't
barely
even.
show up to my
Don't
live.
even.
Stop
Don't
it.
even start. You don't have me
You
as a mod on your
Elmo,
account.
Elmo,
You don't
you
have
don't
me as a
start.
mod. Don't even. You don't have
Elmo,
me as a mod.
wait,
Don't
because
even.
you don't ever come. When was the last time you came to my live?
Yo, I was on your live in the morning. The hell are you talking about?
When?
She
This is
hosts at night.
crazy.
I'm
Thank
not
you,
on my
Sajda.
35 badge, so it doesn't pop up when I
Guys,
come in.
guys, guys. Okay, let's keep it
We're doing.
professional here,
We're doing this.
y'all.
Well, we
We're doing
okay.
this. We're doing this to get more people.
We're fighting him on
Anyway,
mod.
I put on
yo,
my white
Didi,
voice.
Fighting on
listen.
mod is
Taz,
Yes.
crazy.
Taz, don't make me start with you. You unmodded me, okay? Let me make it start with you right now, all right?
Listen,
Taz,
listen.
wait. How about this?
Dude.
I'm gonna start
I'm
with
having a
Taz too.
1v1 with Taz.
She
Taz,
gave
you
me
unmodded me,
garbage.
bro.
Okay, Elmo, just come to my live
She
today. I'll give you mod for one day.
Okay,
and
we have our
Taz, you
guests here,
literally.
guys, everybody, our guest is here. They're in the request, so I am going to
Stop me.
drop everyone.
You could
If you
drop me too.
guys are interested in asking any questions, please re-request, inshallah, and I will bring you all up. All right, everybody, we're about to get started. Thank you, Ronnie, A Money, Linda.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, welcome in. We are about to get started. We have our guests here today. Hello, hello.
Hello, can you hear us?
We can. Let me know if you got the request for the camera. If not, I will resend it. Just give me about 1 minute and we'll go ahead and
Clicked
send
on
that over because TikTok is a little bit funky at times. But thank you so much for joining us. We are so glad to have you here with us. And we will get started in just a bit. Everybody, please make sure you share out the live. Please help in protecting it as well. Join the team, and then we will get started here in just a few minutes. I will send the request in just about a few seconds here, and once you see that, if you can accept it, and then we'll go ahead and get started. All right, here we go. Let's see. Bismillah, we'll go here. All right, let me know if you got that.
Didn't see a
And then
thing.
if you just accept it, we'll go ahead and be able to get that started.
No idea.
Were
You
you
can.
able to get the request or?
We're not seeing anything change. There's something that says enhance effects or something and save at the bottom.
Yes, if you press save, It should open. There we go.
Oh, okay.
We see you. All right, everybody, please just tap the screen, share the live, and we'll get started in just a few seconds. Welcome, Cindy and Craig. I'll start with the introduction in just a minute, and then I'll bring everybody up that wants to ask any questions at the end.
Okay.
All righty. So if anybody has any questions that they would like to ask at the end, I will be bringing you up, and we will go from there. All right, welcome in everybody. Today we have an amazing, amazing event. We have special guests with us, Cindy and Craig Corrie. They are Rachel Corrie's parents. So I will start with an introduction, and please make sure you continue to protect the live and share the live out. All right, we have Craig and Cindy Corrie. They are parents of human rights activist and observer Rachel Corrie, who in 2003 was killed by the Israeli military in Rafah in the Gaza Strip as she tried to prevent the demolition of a Palestinian family's home. Since Rachel's killing, her family has strived to continue the commitment to Palestine that she intended. For over a decade, they pursued accountability in Rachel's case through efforts in the U.S. Congress, at the U.S. Departments of State and Justice, and in U.S. and Israeli courts. From 2003 through 2016, the Corries traveled often to the Middle East, supporting the multiple delegations to the region and making 5 trips to Gaza. During the past 20 years, they have spoken broadly throughout the U.S. and the world, sharing their daughter's story, educating and advocating for Palestine and for universal human rights, and standing with Palestinians in their quest for freedom, equality, and peace with justice. The Corries are volunteers for the Rachel Corrie Foundation for Peace and Justice, the nonprofit they co-founded over 20 years ago in Olympia. The foundation was recently selected and honored by the YWCA Olympia as their 2024 Organization of Achievement, and was previously recognized for outstanding service for human rights by the Thurston County Diversity Council. Cindy and Craig Corrie have received a Human Rights Advocates of the Year award with Seattle University's Human Rights Network and a Pillar of Peace award from the Pacific Northwest region of the American Friends Service Committee. In October 2012, the Corries traveled to Iceland to accept the Lennon Anno Grant for Peace on behalf of their daughter, Rachel. Welcome, Cindy and Craig. Thank you so much for being with us. I want to start off with my condolences on the loss of your daughter, Rachel. Her story has truly impacted millions of people worldwide, and she will be remembered in history forever. We will never forget her. So welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for being with us. I wanted to just first start off and allow everybody to, we have over 230, no, 250 people here. Could you tell us a little bit about Rachel Corrie and who she was, how her activism started, and how she ended up in Rafah, Gaza?
Well, first, thank you very much for having us, and hello to everyone
Assalamu
out there.
alaikum.
Yeah, we're glad to.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Rachel, Rachel was our youngest child. She had 2 older siblings, and each child in a family is unique, and she was. From the time she was very small, she was an observer. She was probably the most artistically creative member of our family. I like to think that we're all creative in different ways. But she was, from a really young age, very articulate with words, had interesting ideas, and she grew to be a writer and an artist. She was often sitting in the corner here in the room that Craig and I are sitting in right now, drawing, and then later as she got older, writing. And what I often say about Rachel when as she got older. And when she moved away from our home and was going to college and living here locally in apartments with her college roommates and so forth, you always knew when she came through the door, it was going to be an interesting time. She had interesting things to talk about. She brought her family along, I would say, too, in addressing and thinking about different issues. There was always a lot of conversation around our table, our dining room table, as the kids were growing up. We did try to focus on the world, but there was so much we didn't know, and so much that we learned through Rachel. She was very impacted by what happened on 9/11, and as was everyone in the U.S. and world, and in our state and locally. And there were peace groups that formed after that, who opposed U.S. militarism as a way to respond to what happened. And so she was a college student at the time, going to the Evergreen State College here. She connected with the new groups that formed, Olympia Movement for Justice and Peace and Olympians for Peace in the Middle East, and also with older organizations, peace and justice organizations like the Fellowship of Reconciliation. And she connected with our entire community and became very, very active, created events and so forth, was participating in all the marches and rallies that happened during that time. And then as the years went on, as things were very difficult in Gaza, in Israel, in the West Bank during the Second Intifada, there was an organization formed, the International Solidarity Movement, which was Palestinian-led, had a group of people that we've been fortunate enough to connect through during the years that founded the International Solidarity Movement. There were only 2 requirements at the time, but it was a call from Palestinians for internationals to come and stand with Palestinians who wanted to resist the Israeli occupation and all that was happening at the time through nonviolent means. And my memory is that there were only 2 requirements for becoming a part of ISM. You had to believe in freedom for the Palestinian people and to use only nonviolent direct action methods of resisting. And Rachel had a group of friends that went to the first, what was called Freedom Summer with the International Solidarity Movement. And she followed very closely what they were doing and then decided that was something she could do. And she studied Arabic at the Evergreen State College. Her teacher told us later, that she was a very strong student in Arabic, and he was from Nazareth originally, and he actually discouraged her from traveling because he knew that it was a violent time. And he also, he tried to tell her, if you just stay and study Arabic a little longer, you'll become fluent in it because you have an ear for the language, and she had progressed well with it. But it was really important to her to do and find meaningful things to do in her life. And she'd had the experience of traveling, the privilege really of traveling a couple other places in the world before that time. And so it was important for her to see and do more. And so that's what took her to Palestine in January of 2003, and then to Gaza, where she went very intentionally because she was told by her college colleagues here that that's where the need was greatest.
That's absolutely incredible. You raised an amazing, amazing daughter. Um, so many of us know Rachel was killed by the IDF by an American-made bulldozer, Caterpillar. You called for an investigation and also sued the Israeli government and the IDF. What was the result of that investigation, and were you able to get justice for Rachel?
I would say that to answer the last part of that question, No, and this was a long process. So, of course, when Rachel was killed, we were instantly put into an international crisis. And we were trying to work with the U.S. government, demanding an investigation. We wanted a U.S.-led investigation into Rachel's killing, but also, of course, answers would have to come from the Israeli government. It was clear in the beginning that what the Israeli government was telling our government, it was telling the press, telling people on the Hill, telling our family, was not true. And at first you could tell because it was so contradictory to Rachel's friends. But through the years, when we finally, through a lawsuit, we get testimony from people on the ground, Israelis on the ground. For instance, the highest ranking Israeli officer that was actually on the ground when Rachel was killed, testified that he knew and saw that Rachel was run over by the bulldozer. In the meantime, high officials in the Israeli government were still saying that a bulldozer never touched her, never went over. They were just blatant, I'd say lies, knowing statements, misstatements of material fact. So when 2 years were almost up, the U.S. had not started an investigation of its own. The only thing we could control was a lawsuit that was controlled by the family. So we entered that lawsuit, actually two of them. One was the one that you just referred to, that was against the Israeli government and the Israeli military. And that way we could, in Israeli courts, demand answers pull witnesses from the Israeli military and demand some of their documents, try to get to the bottom of this. Now, a lawsuit doesn't make up for the fact that there was inadequate or no investigation. There were things that the Israelis would call investigations, but they simply didn't get at the truth of the matter. We had a fantastic Israeli attorney, Hussein Abu Hussein, that represented us amazingly well. And I think at the end of the day, what he was able to show in Israeli courts was that the courts, in fact, are part of the occupation. So what I tell people, if you want justice for Rachel, what you need to do is work for the justice that Rachel was working for when she was killed. Work for the justice for the Palestinian people.
There was I think there was a quote that I heard you mention before. It says, Israel doesn't do investigations, it does cover-ups. And that really, I mean, you can't say it in any way, like that's perfectly, perfectly said. And my other question into kind of getting into this, like, how do you feel nearly 22 years later about the genocide and the Biden administration's decision to continue sending financial support to Israel, especially in light of the recent $8 billion arms deal announced just about a week or two ago?
Before I respond to that, I'd just like to add that when we were in Israeli court, everything, of course, was in Hebrew, and it had to be translated to us. And we were so supported by Israeli activists who also were opposing the occupation and the treatment of the Palestinian people, who sat beside us and would have to whisper in our ears what was being said in court. But there were a couple of one of the really helpful things about that experience is that we did hear directly from people that were involved with the Israeli military. And I just wanted to share that the lead investigator, because Rachel did get a military police investigation. And I want to point out that almost no Palestinian is ever granted a military police investigation when they're harmed and killed. And of course, there are endless numbers of people that should have had accountability for how they were killed, civilians that were harmed and so forth. So, but the lead investigator testified in Israeli court that they were at war with everyone in Gaza, including the peace activists. So I just ask people to wrap their heads around the fact that the person that's conducting the investigation, that's organizing it and so forth, that's that person's position. So when you think about investigations happening, my sense was that it's always, when those being done by Israel, they go into it with the intention of exonerating, putting the best face that they possibly can on what their military has done. And that may be true of all militaries. I don't know how these investigations are conducted, but I think it's important for people to know that. And the second one that I would point out, there were multiple things that we learned through the process of being in the courts. And I really feel that though it was a long, drawn-out process, it was a valuable experience because of all that we learned. And the connections that we made also with Israelis and Palestinians, of course, who were so supportive of us, so helpful to us during that process. But the second person was a person who wrote manuals. He was a high level, I'm forgetting now his exact station in the military, but he said in court that there were no civilians in war. And there were representatives from human rights organizations in the court at the time who later wrote about this. People could probably still pull up the news articles about it. But it was stunning, to hear from a high-level official in the Israeli military that his position was that there were no civilians in war. Completely counter, of course, to international law and the principles that we expect militaries to live by and conduct themselves by. So I just wanted to point those things out. Going to your question, Taz, for all of us, and this last year and now has been extraordinarily painful. And yes, a genocide happening in Gaza. And we continue, to see that happen, even though we're at a point now today where we're talking about a ceasefire to take place tomorrow, the release of hostages and the release, I'm hearing of 1,900 Palestinian detainees, prisoners. And I think it's important, I know that your audience may know this, but that a huge percentage of young men particularly, but spend time in prison for all sorts of issues, and many for long periods of time, for throwing rocks, for whatever their participation or whatever the charges might be. And so we'll wait to see how this all proceeds. But there's still so much uncertainty about how this will. Eager to see the killing stop. It's been, I know that within the last, 24 hours, I saw over 122 people killed in Gaza. I got an email message in the last 2 days from one of our colleagues in Gaza with one of the projects that the Rachel Corrie Foundation has provided, a colleague that we've worked with, we've known for many years. And he and his family have been in the Deir Bala area. And I just got word at this point in this event that just in the last few days, on Thursday, 13 members of his family were killed when their home was targeted with a missile. He lost his 7-year-old son, who had gone to visit his grandfather. He lost his father, siblings, their wives, and there are people from the family that are still in serious condition. This isn't the first time through this year and a half that Craig and me, sitting here relatively safely in Olympia, Washington, have gotten these messages from our Palestinian friends about their unbelievable losses. So yes, the fact that the killing escalates at a place like this at a time like this, just demonstrates to me that genocide is the goal. And, emptying the area of Palestinians. And it's extremely sad. It's extremely painful. I feel terribly for the families, the Israeli families who are waiting for their family members who are hostages to be brought home. It's time for all of this to end. So if we have an actual ceasefire that continues, I'll be grateful for every day of that. I'm very concerned about what will happen as we move through this process. I don't think the intention, and what I'm hearing and what I believe, I doubt very much that the intention on the part of at least many of the right-wing Israelis and the Netanyahu government is to actually cease this fighting permanently. And so there's a lot of work for all of us to do going forward, to exert as much attention to this, to what happens in the next 6 weeks and after, as we possibly can.
I think I'd just add a couple of things. For one thing, I correct my wife because I often correct other people about talking about the loss of your child. These lives were not lost, they were taken. And let's be very direct about that. Yes, it has now gone to a genocide. I think the world recognizes that, even if the U.S. does not recognize that. In fact, the U.S. is participating in it. And because we live in a representative democracy, that's my tax dollars that are creating this genocide, supporting this genocide. And so one of the multiple feelings I have is just shame. I'm just ashamed of what we are doing here. And genocide's the crime of crimes. You know, there are other things that happen, but this is the worst. And the world knows that. And so it is a catastrophe for the Palestinians and for the families that we know, of course, but it's also a catastrophe for the way our world behaves, the way the southern part of the world now sees the northern part, where they just enforce laws against genocide only against the southern world, not if one of their people tries to do that. I think there's just multiple ways that that this is going wrong for all of us, but mostly for the Palestinians in Gaza. I would add to that, as we look for what I hope is at least a ceasefire where we can get water, food, healthcare, something into the Palestinians. I don't have great hope for this because always in the past, when there's been some ceasefire, it has been broken. And if you follow through and understand the news or hear it, not that it comes to the United States, but from Palestinians, it's the Israelis that break these ceasefires. So I have some hope, but very little, because I don't hear anything from the Israelis that's saying they're giving up their dream of having one Israeli government from the river to the sea. And until they give that up, the Palestinians will continue to suffer. But what I would also tell people is, it seemed to me for the 20 years that Cindy and I have followed this, that the Israeli prime ministers are like magicians that you might see on the stage. In other words, they try to distract you in one area while they're actually doing something in the other. And so we will be looking at Gaza as we should be looking at Gaza, but also watch the West Bank, because that tells the real story. And the attacks that are going on the West Bank now, and I suspect will continue, they've gotten so much worse in the last few years, but that's telling the story without any backstory of pretending that everything started on October 7th of 2023. So So we need to, as a world, continue to watch that. And in the U.S., we need to continue to try to stop it because this is our genocide.
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to end my portion of the questions with this final question, and then we have a group of amazing panelists here that would like to also ask some questions. So my final question for the viewers here, we have over 350 people, so thank you everybody for being here. Could you, you know, allow basically for everybody here in understanding and learning more about the Rachel Corrie Foundation and tell us about this amazing foundation that you have set up.
Thank you for that question. Craig and I are volunteers for the Rachel Corrie Foundation for Peace and Justice. It's a small nonprofit based here in our community of Olympia, Washington. And it has continued since Rachel was killed, really, from 2023, 2024, with the support of many people throughout the world that have provided financial support, but also to our local community members who have served as board members and volunteers for a lot of the work that we do. Our focus has been on Palestine, but we also are, and particularly now, I think, find it important to connect Palestine to other human rights issues, and to know that it's all part of the same story. There are connections between many of these issues, what we're dealing with immigration, economic issues, etc. So the foundation has focused on education. Our work really involves a lot of education on the issue of Palestine, and also making connections, building those connections. And part of those for us, through the years, it's been very important to us to maintain our connections to people in Gaza and to focus on Gaza, because unless there's violence happening there, the attention almost always went away from Gaza. And even though the conditions there and the restrictions on people living in Gaza were so immense. So Gaza has been our focus. I feel that our community has a very special connection with Gaza. Through the years, there were projects that developed. Craig and I made 5 different trips to Gaza, and also other members of our community who were connected with the foundation did as well. And we established relationships with people, some who were friends of Rachel's at the time, but also others in the area that we were blessed to meet during our visits. Some of the projects that you may have heard about, her colleagues, family members of the family whose house she stood in front of when she was killed in 2003, had the idea for the Rachel Corrie Ramadan football tournament. And that became, we understand, at least one of, if not the most popular football tournament in Gaza for a number of years. And during COVID, of course, it couldn't happen, but we worked with the Women's Program Center, Rafah, to support that project. And we had wonderful, reports from the organizers of the project about how it was carried out. And it's been very, very important to us. Also, the Rachel Corrie, from that evolved the Rachel Corrie Tournament for athletes with disabilities, Palestinian disabled folks, children and adults, men and women, young girls and boys participated in that tournament. And again, during COVID, it couldn't happen, but then that was all beginning to come back again. And then we had the outbreak of the current war, which has restricted that. Another really important project to us was the Palestinian Cultural Palace, which is an amazing creative arts program that was for children and youth extended to young adults. And they did creative theater, musical events and programming and visual arts, every kind of creative art that you can imagine. They were developing and providing a place for this to happen. And we have extraordinary photos and videos from the work that they did. And then, of course, with the situation in the past year and a half almost, the situation changed entirely. And those programs were not able to continue. And our work, and with the support of an amazing community effort here in Olympia, we've raised a great deal of money, or for us at least, it's a great deal of money. We're relatively small, but we've been able to support those on the ground who have been working to provide food and services. So funds that have been raised here through many events through the year and activities during the year that our friends and colleagues have carried out here, we've been able to see that those get into the hands of organizations that have been able to continue to work. And I know that our community is committed to making that happen now. We also have a scholarship program. We've had scholarships at Birzeit University and at the Evergreen State College. There's always a tremendous amount of work to do, and we know that there will be a lot to do as we move forward.
Absolutely incredible. I mean, me, and I'm sure everybody here are absolutely so proud of you. You both are amazing, amazing, and I know Rachel would be so proud. That's my portion of the question, so I'm going to open up the panel and start off with the questions. Please keep it one question because we do have a short time here. So if one question each, please. We'll start with Casey. Go ahead, Casey.
Hi, thank you so much for being here. I just want to say you raised an amazing daughter, and my heart will always be with you for your loss. My question to you is, do you feel that you have received justice for your daughter? And if you have not, how would you like things to be handled? If there's anything you would like to share with us that maybe we can help to ensure that justice is served if it hasn't.
It kind of goes back to what I said for Rachel. It's been 20 years. I hear in the background that you have somebody very young in your family, and there's a lot of joy in that, and I hope you can enjoy that. I think one of the things that makes me so angry that the U.S. government did so little about Rachel is that the killing continues, and killing of Americans continues. So it seems like just when you ask for an investigation into Rachel, then somebody else gets killed, and then you ask for an investigation into Shireen Abu Akleh, and somebody else gets killed. At some point, we needed to do those investigations. Not that it could help Rachel. I never felt that way. Rachel was dead. There's nothing we could do for her. It's about the people that are still alive, and we have an opportunity, I think, through having some consequence to the people that do these killings to stop it in the future. I don't know. Go ahead, Cindy.
I would say that as far as we know, the position of the U.S. government remains that the Israeli government never did a thorough, credible, and transparent investigation into Rachel's case. And those were the exact words that the U.S. government stated at the time that Rachel was killed, that they would require that there be a thorough, credible, and transparent investigation. And yet the position is that never happened, and there was no consequence. And our feeling is, that if the U.S. had taken a different approach to Rachel's case, maybe Shireen Abu Akleh, maybe some others would have actually been helped by that. Maybe their deaths could have been prevented. We're particularly close right now to the family of Aishner Ezgi Igi. And I don't know if you know her story, but this came very close to home for us this past summer. We were actually traveling to a place where we go to see our family in the Midwest in the summer when we got word that Eichener, who is a student at the university, was a graduate actually this spring, last spring, of the University of Washington, and was very involved in all the protests at the university and very committed through her life to also very similar to Rachel, I think, as just her commitment to social justice and really tuning into the rest of the world and what our impact on the rest of the world has been. And Eichener traveled to be with ISM, the same group that Rachel, the same movement that Rachel was a part of. And she had only been in the West Bank for a couple of days, I think about 3 days. She went to her very first protest, which was near Nablus in the village of Beta, which has been, the community of Beta has been resisting the taking of their land for a very long time, and the settler attacks and so forth that they have there. And Eichener and others went to a protest actually just to observe, not I don't think to actually be involved directly in the protest. And the protest, part of what happened that day actually ended. They went off and had a prayer circle, and all of a sudden firing started from Israeli military that were there. And Israel, as Eichener, as I understand it, had stepped back to under a tree, I think under an olive tree, with some others, and this firing started. She was shot in the head and killed. And so we have been very close to her story, close to her. We've had the privilege of, since the day after she was killed, connecting with her family members and watching them go through this terrible kind of ordeal. And also hearing the same responses from our own government, and which is frustrating because we know they're waiting for some response to Israeli investigation, but it's taken a very long time and they're not getting answers as far as we can tell. And it's so similar and so sad, because we do feel, if the US government had taken a stronger position in Rachel's case, would Eichener be here today? And I think these are important questions, and important to look at just how our government has handled that. And I would just urge people not to forget Eichener and what's happened, not to forget Shireen Abu Akleh, American citizen. And it's, sometimes I hesitate because I know about all the people who aren't American citizens, all the Palestinians who've been killed. But yet, by bringing attention to these cases, I'm hoping that we can also then impact what happens to Palestinians in situations like this and curb some of the extreme violence that happens that takes people's lives.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Craig and Cindy. Thank you, Casey, for your question. We'll go next to Amani.
You can drop me.
Yes, hi. First and foremost, nice to meet you guys. I do want to tell you guys I am from New York, Brooklyn, and somebody took a stencil of your daughter's face and actually was spray painting it all over the highways. So, and yeah, so my question is, what were your thoughts when you heard of Rachel's passing, and how did you feel when you saw Palestinians commemorate her?
Yeah, I didn't hear the last part of that question.
So what were your thoughts when you heard Rachel's passing, and how did you feel when you saw Palestinians commemorate her?
Oh, well, it was all pretty overwhelming. So I certainly remember those moments when Cindy came to me, and our daughter Sarah had seen basically on TV that Rachel was killed, and Cindy came to me with a phone in her hand and telling me that it was about Rachel and they thought she'd been killed. It's incredibly sad, and it just knocks you back. Also, because it's an international incident, in the very saddest day, the worst day of your life is also the most public day of your life. That's quite difficult. Some of the things that the Palestinians did, they're different. They're sort of different ways that we think about people. So in Rafah, for instance, they paraded with a casket, not with Rachel's body, but had she been Palestinian, it would have been with her body, through the streets and commemorating her. And that's kind of not what we would do in Olympia, Washington. So you start to see these things and you understand that people are reaching out to you. It's also seemed a little strange to me. I didn't really realize why people would react that way. So it took meeting Palestinians, living with them a little bit, and to understand why they would make such a big thing about an American being killed in Gaza. I think, and we heard it from one person a few weeks after Rachel was killed, who came to a talk we didn't know we were going to be in, but anyway, at the University of Washington. And what I heard him say basically was, why is the world so upset when a blonde American girl is killed and they paid no attention to the dark-haired Palestinian girls that have been killed? And the people we were with wanted to cut off that question. And I said no. It seemed exactly the same to me, and I think it would to Rachel. We were grateful for what happened. There's also a difference between what you see in this kind of communication and being with somebody in person. So it was the first time I think that we've been around a lot of Muslims, for instance. And so I remember we were in Charlotte when Rachel was killed, and going back to Charlotte for a memorial service, which we attended, of course. And then Cindy and I kind of wander off on our own and go to dinner, and we happened to go to a restaurant that had some Muslim people that had just been to that service. And of course, they invite us over to the table, and we have this great time with this family. And leaving, I said, it's what I described it as like it's getting into a hot tub, that people just surround you with this warmth and support, and I'm grateful for that. But that's continued for more than 2 decades. It's pretty amazing how that support continues to be around us, and I think both Cindy and I are immensely grateful for that.
I would just add that I have an almost visceral memory of how traumatic, how just sickening and painful it was to get word of Rachel's killing, and then how I lived with that for a time. I mean, we functioned at that time, but I remember it, and I always say it's something I hope never to experience again, because it's one of those losses, the loss of a child, that none of us, all of us, any mother thinks about at times and fears and never wants to experience. But what I think it has helped me to do is to have probably a somewhat stronger sense of what so many mothers are experiencing. When I get word of, from our friend in Gaza this week about the losses there, I have some sense about what that means to them. And so I guess I appreciate at least that out of it, I was able, to take forward some understanding of loss that helps me in being closer to what my friends and colleagues who are experiencing this, what's happening to them. The other thing is, throughout that first year, it was just amazing, the outreach, and it's, as Craig said, it continues, and it's so appreciated, because I really feel that the support from Palestinians, from everyone, but from Palestinians. I have to say also from, Jewish Israelis, Jewish colleagues in JVP and other organizations who have stood with us through all these years. All of that support helps to inspire our work and helps to keep us going. And I think we all have to do that for each other, particularly at times like these and after such an extended period. I heard Rashid Khalidi on a webinar this week saying that he's had contact with students at Columbia, I suppose, but other places maybe as well, who are so sad or frustrated because they feel like they've given so much in the last year and a half and then feeling like it hasn't had an impact. And he just talked about the change in the discourse, that we'll never go back to the discourse that we had earlier, that many more people know now what's happened, but also that this is a long journey. It'll continue to be a long journey. And so I think that the support that Craig and I were provided by Palestinians and that we and others can provide to each other as we continue to fight for peace with justice is so critical to what we do. And I just also want to say that during that first year, it was Palestinians who I think more than anyone advised us to just take time to take care of ourselves and then help to take care of us in different ways. And I would say, what can we do? What can we do? It was kind of like, just give it time and take care of yourselves right now and you'll find your path. And so, we're so, Rachel blessed us in many ways, in many, many ways. But out of the tragedy of her loss came a great deal of opportunity for us to connect with the world in ways that we couldn't have ever imagined. And that's been a real gift.
I just want to
Thank
just
you.
make one statement real quick, Taz. Hearing the pain in your voices sounds so fresh, and hearing the mothers and the parents on this app that we've gotten to meet from Gaza that have lost children as well is, is heartbreaking. You were about to make me cry, and I'm not trying not to cry right now, but I just want to say, educating about your daughter for the last 15 months on this app, because a lot of people didn't know who she was. So educating people on who your daughter was, and more people now knowing who she was, her legacy will live on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amani. Thank you so much. And then we'll go to our next panelist, Didi.
Hi, guys. Thank you guys so much, Mr. and Mrs. Corrie, for being with us. It's an honor to talk to you guys, and I'm so sorry for your loss. I'm so sorry for what you've had to endure. My question, actually, a couple of my questions, as Taz knows, have been answered without me asking. So thank you guys so much for being so thorough in all of your responses. But I do have a question. So much of what we try to put out in the media, so much of what we try to educate the American public on is suppressed. They demonize every story. They've got an excuse for every story. There's so many lobbyist groups and such against us. It's such an uphill battle. What's your experience been with the American Zionists? What if anything, have they ever attacked? Have they ever come to come against credibility? What's that experience look like?
Well, we have. I think people maybe still can go out online and find a way to protest the Corries, but it's much more difficult in our case because Rachel was killed, and so you don't look very good to the general public if you criticize us too much. I think one of the ways over the years that we found that they do that is they're, of course, Rachel is a good Jewish name, so there have been many Rachels that have been killed in suicide bombings or something, and so they'll talk about what about these other Rachels, and that's offensive to me in a couple of ways. One thing, they'll talk on that flyer some lies about Rachel. That's not so much it. It's more that, of course, we should remember all these people, and we should remember the Palestinians, but they aren't the way they died. They lived lives, and so I'll ask these protesters, if we're doing it in person, do you know any of these Rachels? Can you tell me? Did they like to read books? Did they like to ride horses? What music did they like? All these sorts of things that a live person, that a real person has, and ought to be remembered for. And only once have I met somebody who said, "Oh yes, I went to high school with one of these Rachels, Rachel Levi, and she was shy. I don't think he really knew her very well, but could tell me something about them." So we hear some of that, but we can also break through it in a real human way. And the frustration with the press in general, for one thing, I go back to Amy Goodman, and we do sometimes. So there is places where you can get that through. The other thing is just talking to your neighbor, just somehow getting through that, because the public now has changed with this genocide, they've changed their view of this. And I think we have an opportunity to get the press to change, and it has changed in very small ways, but it's gotten a little bit better, I think, at times.
We've been at this, since 2003, and we were really new to it then. But we have seen a lot of change, and we couldn't use the word apartheid. Or at least it was difficult to think about using the word apartheid back in 2003. President Jimmy Carter published his book, Peace, Not Apartheid. And President Carter, it's an important time to me to mention that he was very supportive of Craig and me, and the Carter Center was very important, very supportive of Craig and me. And after the verdict came out in Rachel's case, he made a strong statement about the problems with that, the inadequacy of it. And I think it's important for all of you, particularly younger people, to know that even in the 20 years that Craig and I have been working on this, we haven't changed the policies in the US, although there are efforts now to do it. I mean, to think that we could be calling for regulations, stipulations on any aid to Israel within the Congress, and there are people doing that, Bernie Sanders and others. To think that could be happening now, that would have been almost unimaginable back in 2003. So I think recognize that there have been these changes in the discourse. There's still a great deal of work to do and so much uncertainty. But I think it's important to appreciate what difference all the work that people have been doing for so long, and the steadfastness, the samud of the Palestinian people has had an impact, and it will continue to.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Cindy. Thank you, Dee. I love that you have some Arabic words that you are using here and there. It's absolutely amazing. So Cindy, I know we had 1 hour. I just wanted to check and see if you are able to take any more questions, but I mean, it's up to you if time, allows for that. So please let me know. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up right now.
I have a need to, maybe one more question. We have a need to wrap it up to fit in a birthday visit with our other daughter, Sarah.
Oh, happy birthday to her.
Her birthday was passed, and we've been so busy that we just need time to get together. All of us need to take care of our families.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so we'll do one more question then. Go ahead, Emma.
Well, first of all, it's an absolute honor to be sharing the same space with you guys right now. I'll keep it short and sweet. There's been a lot of Gazans that have been in the comments watching the live right now, and they've been mentioning Rachel's name, and they're saying how much they're honored to actually feel that they're in the same space with her parents. It's a tough question to ask. What if Rachel is with us right now? What would she say But I would really like to hear from you guys. What would be your message to the Gazans and for the people that are watching? There's quite a few of them that actually understand English. They will understand you from the first time as well. But they're very honored, and they're very, like, honestly, they've been literally sending so many comments, thanking and wishing you guys a lot in the comments. Like, if you can tell us what would be your message to the Gazans, and we can end it there.
I have a really hard time. The language difficulty isn't just that I don't speak Arabic. It's even in the English language, I don't have words for the loss that they're suffering, and the world turning their back to them. I wish that I could. My way to do it, we've been in some of those mourning tents, and it would should typically be all males. And I just remember particularly when a 12-year-old boy was shot while he was playing football. He was a goalkeeper. And the Israelis said that somebody was acting suspicious. The whole world knows what a 12-year-old playing soccer looks like. It's not suspicious. And I remember being able to just hug as we walked out of that tent. And so more than words, because they're so in it, I would just like to hug each and every Palestinian. Yeah.
And I would just say that Rachel wrote to us. Rachel guided us a lot with to our work, particularly in the beginning, but always. And she talked about the importance of making commitments to places. And so she was thinking about how she was going to do that with Gaza. It was so important to her. She talked about how she had watched one of her colleagues have to say goodbye to leave, and how hard it was. And she was thinking about how that would be when she knew she would have to leave in another month or two. And I think that I just hold on to that idea of commitment. And I just want people in Gaza to know, I know it's, we're all struggling to figure out what to do to help and to be of support and to be truly in solidarity. We're listening to you. We're bringing others to hear what you have to say. And Craig mentioned it earlier. I mean, we now know, I've been listening to Palestinians who say we need food, we need water, we need medical supplies, we need medical evacuations to be able to happen. We need the raids to stop and the IDF out of the Gaza population centers. We need to stop the killing. And we'll be continuing to send those messages wherever we can. And just to know that we're with you. And it's been since 2012, since Craig and I were in Gaza. We tried other times and didn't get in. And so I'm hoping that we can return and to be with you in person again too. But until then, just know that our love and our hearts are with you every day, every day.
Oh, well, I really hope that you will be able to go back very soon and onward to liberation. This is just the first step. And there's one I'm gonna ask, and of course it's up to you. There's one more panelist who really, really wants to ask a question, if possible. And that will be the last question, but it's up to you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you
you so
so
much.
much.
Go ahead, DJ.
Thank you so much for being here with us today, Mr. and Mrs. Corrie. Thank you for raising such an amazing, beautiful person. As a Palestinian, I will commit to you that I will forever keep Rachel's memory alive, and she will never be forgotten. But my question to you is, as we know, the government is trying to silence us from speaking out against the genocide that the Zionist regime is committing by banning TikTok. In the last 21, 22 years, have you experienced any efforts to be silenced? And if so, can you please share with us some of those efforts?
I don't think we have by the U.S. federal government. And it struck me as strange because we were when Rachel was killed, we were new to this issue. The only thing we really knew was from Rachel's emails to us. And then you look at everything that our government did and everything that the U.S. Media does, and they had no idea how we would be treated. At that time, it was the Secretary of State was Colin Powell, and we were immediately, of course, in touch with the State Department, and Colin Powell's chief of staff, Lawrence Welkerson, was our main contact there. What surprised me is that immediately, of course, we were in the media, and also Cindy and I were on the Hill talking to people about what Rachel saw in Gaza and we knew Rachel wanted to get her word out, wanted the world to see what she was seeing, and we thought we'd have a few days maybe in which anybody would pay attention to us. So we would do whatever we could to get that word out. The State Department never, at that time, never tried to change our mind about what our opinion was about what was going on there. They never corrected us about what we were saying. And my impression, well, our congressman's impression, when he was in some of those meetings with us, he said he got the idea that the State Department would be making appointments for us on the Hill if they could. That's one State Department with one leader, Colin Powell, who is my understanding just late in the last couple of years, I heard that he told Larry Welkerson to do everything that he could for our family. But of course, we were left to do the work on the Hill trying to change the public policy. They weren't doing that for whatever reason. And so it depends on administrations. It depends on the individuals you talk to. I think while we're on the Hill, one of the earliest meetings we had was with a congressman who was, at the end of it, he said that nobody would ever tell us no, and nobody would ever do anything for us while we talked there. And that's a pretty bleak assessment, but it may not be that far from the mark. We have had, Rachel's congressman, Brian Baird, went to Gaza, I think, 4 or 5 times. So there have been members that have done a lot for us, so that's kind of bleak. But I don't think the government has tried to keep it. But media, of course, takes different takes. Interrupt you or whatever and has a different view. You're talking to an audience that needs to hear your view. You need to somehow get past that host, because it's not enough to talk to the people that agree with you. You need to change the minds of the people that don't and don't understand. And I believe I come from a corporate background. I'm just this old white man that used to work for corporations, and once you understand what's going on, it's just flat wrong. Anybody ought to be able to see it. The people I work with just didn't know. It wasn't that they wouldn't understand this is wrong. They just didn't understand. They didn't know. And so part of it is trying to get to an audience that might listen to us and unfortunately doesn't listen, or didn't, I think it's better now, listen to Palestinians, just somehow get that word through to people what's actually happening and how wrong it is.
I think alternative media has always been incredibly important to us. When Rachel was killed, we, of course, had no media experience prior to that, and we were just immediately put into that arena. And what we felt was, that maybe people would pay attention to the story for couple days or a week. And then the Iraq War started immediately after Rachel was killed, just a couple days after. And so that took her story out of the media, pretty much. And but we kept getting requests from alternative media around the world, really. And in this house where I'm sitting right now, my daughter Sarah would write down for me points that we might want to make. And I can picture myself sitting on the floor at like 4 a.m. in the morning because there was some outlet in Ireland or somewhere that wanted to speak to us. And we kept, even at that time, which was just days after Rachel was killed, we felt like we needed to do those things because, again, we thought it would just disappear. The story would disappear. And so we took those steps. I sat there and I somehow talked through those interviews. And then I have to say, Democracy Now! And they've been amazing throughout this past year and a half by consistently prioritizing, telling what is happening in Gaza, and Al Jazeera and other, the outlets where we are able to get the stories out and to keep consistently updating. But Democracy Now! Was very important to us, and they continued to cover the story, and so we're so grateful for that kind of support. But alternative media were very important. I think it is now. I will say that there are reporters that Craig and I really respect on some of the outlets like CNN. Ben Wiedemann is a name that comes to mind. I think you can sort out those folks that have actually spent a lot of time in the region, who speak Arabic, who understand the complexities, not always all that complex, but understand the nature of it all. And I like to extend support to them, as much as we can as well, and to let people know those are voices to watch for when they appear on the mainstream media.
Thank you so much, Cindy and Craig. Thank you, DJK, for that. I think we will go ahead and wrap this up. Rachel will never be forgotten. We will continue to tell her story, and you two are absolutely amazing. We are so proud of you and what you have done. Please, everybody, make sure to check out the Rachel Corrie Foundation if you want any ways to help out and to keep updated. Thank you again so much, Cindy and Craig Corrie, for being here with us. We appreciate you and for all your efforts, and we will always remember Rachel Corrie.